I do invite you to post any questions as I'm going along in the chat. There'll be a Q&A session at the end, but if possible, I will try and answer your questions as I'm going along. So anything that pops to mind, please do post it in the chat, or you can ask me at the end of the session. My name is Deborah, and I'm the head of the Department of Psychology here at Heriot-Watt University, and we sit within the School of Social Sciences alongside the Edinburgh Business School. So I'm going to be talking to you for the next half an hour or so about psychology and also about Heriot-Watt University. So I'm going to start off by just kind of giving you some of the background context about Heriot-Watt University. It's one of the 5 British UK universities here in Malaysia. It actually has a very long history as a university in the UK. In fact, this year we're celebrating our 200-year anniversary. We were founded in 1821, primarily as an institute for engineers. But now Heriot-Watt has broadened its programs and includes a range of sciences as well as engineering and also humanities. In Malaysia, Heriot-Watt University was established as a branch campus almost 10 years ago now, back in 2012, and we launched our first batch of programs in 2013. As you can see from this picture, we're located on the south side of the beautiful Putrajaya Lake. This campus opened in 2014, and they're currently about just over 2,000 students, although we do have capacity to take almost double that. It's a really nice campus. It cost £35 million. We've got some fantastic teaching and learning facilities, laboratories, teaching spaces, library, and others. So when you are able to come and join us, I certainly do recommend coming to have a look around. It gives you a much better feel for what university life would be like when we can reopen. Now, as you get a sense already, Heriot-Watt is a global university. We don't just have campuses in the UK and Malaysia, but we also have a campus in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. What does it mean being a global university? Well, it opens up a range of fantastic opportunities for you as a student. And one of our signature schemes is called Go Global. And what this means is that you can really take the benefit of being part of a global university. You can study for a semester or a year or even more than a year at any one of our 3 campuses. And you can move around from one campus to another. So, for example, if you registered to study with us here in Malaysia, as long as you've completed your first year with us, you can then choose to follow your studies in either Dubai or the UK. You can finish your studies there, or you can decide to come back to Malaysia. It's very, very flexible. And I think Heriot-Watt is quite unique in this respect. This flexibility is possible because we offer our psychology programs on all 3 campuses, and all of our 3 campuses follow the same timetable as well as the same course curriculum. In fact, even if you decide to stay in Malaysia, you would still get a global experience, because some of our courses are delivered with a global teaching team. This is particularly possible during the current situation when we're online learning. So some of your lectures or tutorials may be delivered globally, and you would join students who are studying with us in Dubai or Scotland. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity to feel part of a global world, be a global citizen, and learn from the experiences and discussions with a much wider range of undergraduate colleagues. All of this is possible if you study with us. Here's a slide that just gives some further details about our Go Global scheme. So campus transfers are guaranteed, unlike at some other British universities in Malaysia, where they're not necessarily guaranteed but are available on a quota. As long as the program is available at another campus, then you meet our progression criteria in terms of your grades, then you're completely free to move from one to another. And you are eligible for up to 20% tuition fee waiver when you transfer, as long as you've completed a year's study initially in Malaysia. What else can you expect if you study with Heriot-Watt University? Well, we've been extremely responsive to the global crisis, and we have developed an online learning hub with all of the course materials available online to download or to watch. Some of our lectures are free to live stream from our lecturers based in the UK, Dubai or Malaysia. And interacting with this online learning hub are our lecturers as well as our students. So we have a platform a little bit like the Teams platform that we're talking to you on today, whereby we can have classes, we can have lectures, we can have small group tutorials, we can have breakout sessions, all facilitated through an online platform. Now, we've done this in response to COVID, but actually it is a great platform that we can continue building on forward to inspire learning, because what better way to engage with students and with staff across the globe. Our online platform, as I said, it enables input from staff at all of the global campuses, and some of our psychology courses will certainly be delivered through a cross-campus teaching model. So you'll get the benefit of a coordinated global team. Now that our online platform is well established, we believe that we are extremely responsive to whatever happens in the future, and we know that the future is slightly uncertain at the moment, particularly in Malaysia as we are in our third lockdown. We have this dynamic learning environment which we can use in a fully online way or in a hybrid way with some face-to-face teaching and some online learning. So we can guarantee that whatever your learning journey looks like, there will be minimum disruption, no matter whether there are continued MCO announcements from the government, or whether, as we hope, things start opening up in January and October, as the government are currently anticipating. There are a number of unique things about a Heriot-Watt education that you don't always necessarily get a sense of when you read our prospectuses that are much more focused on the courses themselves. But at Heriot-Watt, we are very committed to providing students with a holistic education. Yes, it's important to achieve academic excellence and perform well and to get good grades, but we believe it's also important to achieve a sense of well-being and to flourish, to understand what sort of impact you would like to make in the world and to develop a sense of purpose. These are all factors that are built into a Heriot-Watt education. We take a much more holistic view of education than simply focusing on academic performance. And this emphasis is recognised by employers, not just in Malaysia, but also worldwide, that critical factors to career success include a sense of flourishing and also a commitment to making a positive impact on the world. Having helped our students identify their purpose in life and the sort of impact that they would like to achieve, we then focus on offering a range of different options through workshops, courses, and self-directed learning to develop and hone those transferable skills that employers want. Here I'm talking about personal effectiveness, self-confidence, communication, leadership, time management, emotional intelligence, ability to plan one's career. We cover a range of different courses, lectures, seminars on all of these things. Being able to bounce back and grow from setbacks is really important, and that's what we call resilience. We focus some of our courses on helping students develop their resilience skills so that no matter what happens in the future, you will be able to cope with that and to grow and learn from that experience. I talked about those discipline-specific knowledge and skills, and I'll talk a little bit about those later on in the context of psychology. But all of these things, academic excellence, personal effectiveness, resilience and well-being, are underpinned by a sense of self-awareness of your own character strengths and what you value in life. And discovering those things, uncovering those things, we helped you to nurture your own development based on building on your core strengths and your own personal values in life. So that tries to describe in a nutshell what's unique about a Heriot-Watt education. It's extremely holistic, and we focus on your well-being as well as your learning. To do this, we have a number of structured programs, and this is an overview of what is available to you. All of our first year students undergo the Watt level, which includes a basic introduction to some of these topics that I've talked about. Thereafter, the kilowatt, megawatt and gigawatt level are self-directed learning opportunities that we encourage and support our students. We have a number of champions in those different domain levels, a champion for critical thinking skills, a champion for entrepreneurship, innovation and creativity, etc. And they can talk to you about what sort of opportunities you might be able to undertake to develop your skills in those particular areas. A lot of our students undertake community service projects, as well as undertaking internships in the summertime in a range of different external organisations. And what better way to develop those lifelong skills than through action learning, through having a wide variety of experiences that go beyond the simple psychology curriculum. So we offer all of these opportunities for extracurricular activities. And at the end of your 3 years with us, If you undergo some of the activities in this program, then you could be eligible for what is called an enhanced transcript. So as well as your degree certificate, you get another certificate that explains the skills that you've developed and the additional extracurricular activities that you've undertaken. What great way to show to employers that you are a very well-rounded person that has really taken the opportunity to make the most out of their university life by fully engaging in all opportunities that have been given to them. Here's an example of a project that some of our first year students did a few months ago as part of their community service project. They set up a website and they did some crowdfunding for supporting a charity that works with the turtle population. And they actually surpassed their target in fundraising for that particular charity. That was really great to see. So I've given you a little bit of a general background into Heriot-Watt as a university and the sort of extracurricular educational opportunities that we provide. Now I'm going to focus a little bit more on psychology specifically. What is psychology? Well, it's the study of the human mind and behaviour. And one thing to focus on is that it's grounded in science. So psychology is a scientific discipline in the same way as biology or chemistry or physics. It's just that we study people. That's the focus of our study. Psychologists are scientists, researchers, therapists, clinicians, and they work in a diverse discipline which has boundless applications almost in everyday life. I'm sure whenever you read the paper, often there are many comments or opinions offered by psychologists who are working in a discipline that's relevant to whatever that newsworthy item is. We'll talk about careers a little bit later on, but if you are planning on developing your career, pursuing your career in Malaysia, then I can let you know, perhaps you're surprised to find out that there's up to 700 psychologists already working in Malaysia in a range of different careers. And that doesn't include those psychologists who are working clinically in hospitals and are registered with the government under the Allied Health Professions Act. So it is a steadily growing discipline. And this means that there are going to be increasing job opportunities in the future for our graduates in psychology. Now, we might often refer to anything related to the study of the mind and behaviour as modern psychology. But did you know that psychology has its foundations in ancient Greece about 2,500 years ago? So it's a discipline that has very ancient roots. This chap here on the left-hand side is Aristotle, and he can be given credit for formulating the foundations of psychology. He was a Greek philosopher who lived almost 2,500 years ago, and he wrote widely on a range of different topics. Here's one example on the right. He wrote a book called On the Soul, which was his reflections, his thinking about the soul. And he proposed a theory based on his thinking. He thought that there was a three-part structure to the soul for plants, animals, and humans. But humans were unique in having all three types of soul. So for plants, he thought that they just had one soul, which he called the vegetative soul. This is a soul that experiences sensations and can grow and nourish itself. Animals have another soul called the sensitive soul. They can sense things and they can move around on water, on land, or in the sky. So this is an additional capability over and above plants, which can just grow and reproduce themselves. Aristotle thought that what distinguishes humans is the rational soul. This is the unique part of being a person. It's our ability to perceive and think about other things using our intellect and reason. And Aristotle actually wrote a wide range of essays about memory, about learning, about the role of dreams. However, in those classical times, psychology was not a science. It was a philosophy. And what do I mean by that? Well, a philosophy is about knowledge that is gained through the power of reasoning, beliefs, and logical argument. So this theory of the soul was developed by Aristotle, thinking and rationalizing about the soul. He didn't actually have any empirical evidence. Psychology didn't emerge as a scientific discipline until much more recently. Now, maybe that's because understanding and studying behavior, thoughts, and feelings is not easy. And it might explain why it was largely ignored as a discipline between ancient Greek times and, say, around the 16th century. Most experts actually consider psychology as a relatively young discipline. So when did it actually emerge as a science? Well, in this slide, I illustrate that turning point in psychology's emergence as a scientific discipline, separate and distinct from philosophy and medicine. And this was when a German doctor and philosopher called William Wundt opened the world's first experimental laboratory in Leipzig in Germany in 1879. And here you can see a photograph of that first experimental laboratory. The first experiment that was ever conducted assessed the speed of thought by measuring how long it took an experimental subject, who you can see sitting in the chair, to make a judgment. And in this experiment, Wundt measured the difference between the actual position of a pendulum swing and the perceived position of the pendulum swing from the perspective of the subject. And he inferred that this difference represented the speed of thinking of the subject. Now, at the time, this was pretty radical stuff. It was a really creative way of trying to understand what's going on inside somebody's head by conducting experimental work. Now, our degree in psychology is based on these scientific principles. Quite a large proportion of our psychology curriculum focuses on developing research methodology, skills in research methodology, an understanding of how to formulate a research question, how to design an experiment to assess that research question, how to collect and analyze the data, and then how to interpret the data and build your argument. This is a fundamental component of a British degree in psychology. It really teaches you to think like a scientist. We have a number of courses that cover the whole broad range of psychology, so it's a very broad discipline. We study the history and philosophy of psychology, covering some of those topics that I introduced to you at the start to give you an idea of where psychology started. We cover developmental psychology, which is how we develop from babies through to adults. Social psychology, which is about how we think as a group, as society. Cognitive psychology, which is about individual thought processes. neuropsychology, which is a little bit more biological. It's about how the brain processes information and what happens when people experience brain damage, and what that tells us about brain processing. I won't go into all of the courses, but you can see them sketched out here. We have psychology within our foundation program, both in science and business. We have direct entry year 1 students, as well as students who have completed our foundation course. And our psychology course is 3 years, as you see here. The curriculum is benchmarked against the British Psychological Association standards, and there are also some options for specialist options, which you can see on the right, that tap into some of the research expertise of the staff on the Malaysia campus who work within the psychology team. So the take-home message is that we cover all of the fundamentals of a broad psychology education, with some additional options for specialisation in certain topics. Some of you may be interested in psychology with management, and I've outlined the curriculum here. The take-home message is it's broadly the same content, but if you look at those courses with a red asterisk, you can see that it's a little bit more business oriented. So there are some specialist options in business in years 2 and 3, and the research project that you do will be on a research question based on a workplace related topic. Those are the key aspects of the difference. Otherwise, some of the core courses are the same, and you would study alongside those other psychology students. So what's unique about our psychology program? Because I do realise that you can study psychology at a range of different private and public universities across Malaysia. Well, sometimes it's a little bit confusing to see what distinguishes one program from another. So I just wanted to go step by step through some of the things that I believe are unique about our psychology programs at Heriot-Watt. Firstly, we're quite a small department. So what that means for you as a student is that we have quite a low student to staff ratio. That translates into a much more personalised learning experience for you. You'll get to know your lecturers on first name terms. If you're interested in studying psychology with management, then you benefit a lot by being in the School of Social Sciences, because if you remember, I said we're alongside the business school, and some of the management courses that we offer are directly integrated into our psychology curriculum from the Edinburgh Business School. So you'll receive some teaching by those business experts in the Edinburgh Business School. Psychology at Heriot-Watt has a very strong reputation for exploring and applying solutions to real-world issues. We give you a lot of opportunity as a student to engage with industry. You'll take an industrial training internship at the end of year 2, and there are opportunities, other opportunities to work or interact with people from industry through our seminar series, through workshops, as well as through that final year research project that I mentioned earlier. Here's a little bit more detail about that industrial internship. Our second year students are currently on internship at the moment. They're in a wide range of different environments. Some are doing research at other universities. We've got some students working with NGOs, some students working with the Malaysian Psychological Association, and students working in a range of commercial settings. So this is another opportunity to develop those all-important soft skills, what we call personal effectiveness, the things that employers are looking for, the things that will enhance your CV when you leave us. We do, as a third year, you take part in a research-led project that forms part of your dissertation. And when conducting this, you get a chance to be supervised with one of our academic staff, and you can draw on that recognised experience. And we currently have staff in our team who have expertise in educational psychology, health psychology, cognitive psychology, and business psychology. One of the benefits of being a global university is that your degree certificate is from a recognised British university. So your certificate will just say Heriot-Watt, won't necessarily identify which campus you studied on. And I've already talked about our Go Global scheme, but I think this is really unique to Heriot-Watt within Malaysia. Now, with this in mind, if there are any parents listening on the call, I did want to reassure you that a degree in psychology opens many doors. I often get asked what sort of careers psychology graduates go on to do, but whether or not you decide to stay in a professional career in psychology, if you come out of it with a degree in psychology, you'll have lots and lots of transferable skills that are really valued by employers. And I've listed some of them here. We hear time and time again from employers that they're like critical, analytical thinking, ability to construct an argument, ability to express personal opinions, communication, both written and spoken, and good team working skills. So we make sure that if you study with us, you have all of these and more. Now, you might be asking yourself, that all sounds great, but how do we actually achieve that? Now, in the next two slides, I'd like to introduce you to some of the educational theory that underpins how we support that skills development. And here's a framework that really characterises the British education system, and it was developed in the 1950s by the American educational psychologist called Benjamin Bloom. It's called Bloom's Taxonomy, and it provides a common vocabulary for thinking about learning goals in higher education. It's often drawn as a pyramid with a very broad base, reflecting the more straightforward surface type learning that can be characterised as remembering facts or understanding. These are often the sort of skills that you're taught at school when you're cramming for exams and learning facts. But university is all about taking you beyond that. And our university education takes students on a journey much further beyond simply remembering and understanding. Our teaching enables you to become competent and confident in applying that information, in using that information and analysing that information in a critical sort of way, evaluating that information, comparing and contrasting different theories, and ultimately in creating new knowledge based on a critical appreciation of what we know so far and what are the gaps in our understanding. So our teaching methods are really underpinned by this educational psychology approach to learning and help you go far beyond your school experience in what you can achieve. We try and achieve that by using a range of different teaching methods. So we have lectures, we have very interactive seminars with small groups of students led by one academic staff. We've got quite a lot of practical experimental classes, and there's also some web-based and computer-based work. And we try and always make your learning experience fun and as well as informative. Now, I'm nearing the end of my presentation now, but if you remember at the beginning, I said that a degree in psychology opens lots of doors. So let's just take a dive into what that means. In this slide, I'm showing you all of those psychology-related careers for professional psychologists. There are a range of different professional psychology routes. You may be familiar with some of those, particularly a clinical psychologist or a counsellor, but there are a range of other professional psychology routes. Educational psychology, I think I also mentioned earlier on, organisational or industrial psychology, health psychology, sports psychology, etc. However, all of these do need some specialised postgraduate training that lead to some form of accreditation to practice. If there are any particular psychology careers that you're interested in knowing a little bit more, or if you have any questions on any of those careers, then please do ask me in the chat, and I can try and tailor an answer that is a little bit more dedicated to the sort of questions that you would like me to answer. Now, while some of you may have an unwavering goal to be a psychologist, and you may have already decided that you would like to commit to undergo some further training, either at master's or doctoral level, that's fine, but being a professional psychologist is not everybody's cup of tea. Some of you might genuinely love psychology and find it really interesting, but might have no intention of becoming a professional psychologist as a career. Now that's fine, because our psychology graduates are uniquely poised and armed to enter a wide variety of professions because of this fundamental and flexible skill set that we provide at undergraduate level. And in this slide, I just wanted to give you some of the primary examples of other relevant career pathways that psychologists can typically follow. They fall into three broad groups. The first one I'll call human resources. And there are three examples here, such as a career advisor or a recruitment consultant or a human resources executive. So it's working in organizations and focusing on employees or employee development or recruiting employees. The second sort of category of jobs that many psychology graduates go on to do, I'll call these advertising and public relations. So they're things around sales and marketing, or building a public image, a reputation for a company. And here are just some examples. A public relations specialist, advertising and media executive, a sales professional, or a user experience analyst. And then finally, the third category I would call other sort of helping careers. These are other careers that draw on a deep appreciation of people, but not necessarily practicing as a professional psychologist. So some examples are social work assistant or a special education therapist, using those helping skills in the community or with children who have particular needs. So I hope that just gives you a flavour of some of the other career options that would be available to you with a degree in psychology. Now, as I close my talk, I'm just going to share with you a few comments from our students to give you an idea of the student perspective on psychology. Here's one of our students who recently graduated, and I'll just give you a moment to read what she had to say about being a psychology student at Heriot-Watt. The other thing to let you know is that we have a very vibrant psychology society, which is led by our students, for our students. And all of our psychology students are automatically members of the Psychology Society. And the Society creates a welcoming community that organise lots of social events, educational events, and they also provide resources to enhance student learning. So we're working with the Psychology Society at the moment, for example, to organise some career talks around some of those careers that some of our current third-year students are interested in following up. Here are just some of the pictures of the sort of activities that our students did in the year before MCO. More recently, we've had lots of activities online, workshops, seminars, and our psychology students have also organised informative forum or web debates. So I hope that just gives you a very broad overview of our psychology course and gives you a little bit of a flavour of what it's like being a student in psychology at Heriot-Watt. There's still quite a few of you on the call at the moment, so I'll just open up for any questions, and thanks for your attention. So you're all a very quiet bunch. Maybe I answered all of the questions that you had, but I'm sure that there must be a few things that are on your mind. Don't be shy. Happy for you just to type a question.
I'll ask you one.
Prof or Prof.
So I've got a question from Darren, who said that we have a small lecturer-student ratio. So the class sizes vary depending.
But that was up to the she told me it's really year 1, year 2, year 3, not their.
I don't understand.
Thank you for just muting your microphone. If you've got a question, then either type it in the chat or put your hand up. In the meantime, I'll try and answer Daryl's question. So currently our first year classes are around 30 students, but those are the classes that are compulsory for all of our students. For the optional courses, some of those classes are a little bit smaller. So you may be in a class size of anything between 10 and 20. So I hope that answers your question. The tutorials that we also offer are sometimes split across classes. So the tutorials are often a little bit smaller, and we do that to try and encourage a lot more interaction between our staff and students. There's also some opportunity for one-to-one interactions between you and the academic staff. So all of our students are assigned a personal tutor. They will be with you on the whole 3-year journey with us, and they are there to guide you, to answer any questions or address any concerns that you might have. And as I also implied, your research project will be supervised by one member of staff. So there's a mixture of some one-to-one support from academic staff, as well as some small group teaching up to about a class size of 30. Great, so that's great to see that comment, Daryl. So if your son needs extra coaching, then the way that we structure our teaching is very much on the UK model. So we have a mixture of lectures which are sharing information through videos and online, face-to-face when we can move to face-to-face teaching. And that extra coaching is really provided by the tutorial sessions. So that's a chance to be interactive, for your son to ask questions, and that enables our lecturers to really tailor the advice and support that they can give so that they're addressing what the students actually need. So somebody asked about a clinical psychologist, and they said, what's the procedure for a clinical psychologist? So maybe I'll try and explain that one a little bit. So to be a clinical psychologist, it's one of those professional careers that you would need to undertake some postgraduate training. The postgraduate training gives you a much more practical experience in how to manage clients, how to kind of manage that individual session with clients, as well as provide some of the theoretical orientations to clinical psychology, whether it's a psychoanalytic philosophy, a cognitive behavior philosophy, or a behavioral philosophy. There are lots of different styles of providing client counselling and therapy. In order to get onto a postgraduate course, often you first need some relevant working experience, either as an intern or as an assistant. In Malaysia, if you want to work in the public sector as a clinical psychologist, then we would advise that you look for postgraduate training that's offered by a public university. Those public universities often have hospitals attached to them, so that would give you a chance for some practical experience as a therapist while you're undergoing your postgraduate training. I believe that Australia does accept Malaysia undergraduates into their clinical psychology training, but only with 4 years of training, so you would need an additional master's qualification. In the UK, training for clinical psychologists is funded by the National Health Service, and so it's not so easily accessible to overseas citizens. You can pay privately for training, but you don't get automatic access to the National Health Service placements, so you only learn the theoretical part. Again, North America, you can study there, but prior experience is essential and it is quite expensive. So I hope I answered some of your general questions about training route. If you stay in Malaysia and want to train as a clinical psychologist, then there are 2 routes. The public university route that would give you both practical and theoretical training, the private university route, which is focused a little bit more on theoretical training, and the university doesn't necessarily organise practical placements for you, so you might have to organise those yourself. So did I answer your question about the procedure for being a clinical psychologist? Of course, one of the things that I didn't mention, but in order to practice, you have to register with the Malaysian government. There's a chartered system for clinical psychologists in the same way that there is for engineers or lots of other disciplines, and that's to protect the discipline and to show that you've undergone rigorous training and are qualified to practice. There was a question from Jacqueline about requirements if you'd like to go global to the UK after your first year. So the requirements are actually quite light, Jacqueline. My understanding is the first thing is that you have to complete the first year on the Malaysia campus. The second one is that you have to pass our minimum requirements for your attendance at those courses and the grades in those courses, so that you would naturally progress from first year to second year. And then if you satisfy both of those 2 things, then you can just apply for a transfer. And our staff at Heriot-Watt will talk you through how to do that. But you just have to decide where you would like to go, whether it's the UK or Dubai, because we have psychology on both of those campuses, and for how long, whether it's a semester or whether it's for longer than a semester. And then we can put those processes in place. So at the moment, of course, with restrictions on international travel, we haven't been able to offer our Go Global scheme, but we are anticipating this starting up again in September. And as you know, the Malaysian government is hopeful that Malaysia will be able to relax and open up international travel, so that this should be possible. There was another question about any specific requirements or recommendations for students who are looking into a career in research. That was from Yisia. So I would say that there are lots of opportunities for a career in education, in working in a university setting, and that's a job that combines lecturing with research. There are a few jobs that are primarily in research, but those jobs are quite competitive. However, they are available. So what I would recommend if you're interested in a career in the research field is to fully engage with the curriculum that we offer in psychology. We touch on research methodology from the get-go in year one. So we have, every semester we have a course on research methodology, starting off quite basic, looking at descriptive statistics and simple inferential tests, through to more sophisticated research methodology, factorial designs, multiple regression modelling, qualitative techniques using interview data that you can then triangulate with more quantitative methods. We will introduce you as an undergraduate to all of these different skills. Now, there are additional opportunities for our undergraduates as options to take part in ongoing research projects as participants. That's another good way to learn about research in psychology, but also to undertake your internships in a research setting. And in fact, one of my second year students at the moment is doing her research internship at Reading University, working with a lecturer, and she's contributing to the research project. So there are opportunities to expand on your engagement with psychology beyond the curriculum, taking opportunities to participate in ongoing research from staff and students, as well as to take part as a student helper in conducting research projects. So I definitely recommend that you think beyond the actual curriculum and get a bit of hands-on experience just to see if you enjoy doing research. It's a great opportunity while you're an undergraduate to try your hand and see if it's a career that you might be interested in undertaking and pursuing further. If you are interested in a career in research, then obviously the next steps would be a master's in psychology research methods or direct a PhD. And that would help you develop your skills as an independent researcher. All of our academic staff have PhDs, so they've all undergone some personal research training and development before they've taken careers as lecturers. So I'm just picking up on the question, how far into postgraduate MSc or PhD level? I assume that is related to your previous question about being a clinical psychologist. So my understanding is that the degree qualification for a clinical psychologist depends very much on the country. Each country has its own rule, I'm quite familiar with the UK system, so let me start off with that. If you undertake training as a clinical psychologist in the UK, it is now doctoral level training. So it's a 4-year PhD level training that combines practical and therapeutic skills as a professional in clinical psychology, as well as those research skills that enable you to become a research practitioner. In Malaysia, I also understand that it's at the PhD level, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that you can study counselling psychology at MSc level. That's a slightly different career route, but is still providing counselling to patients, just patients with less severe psychological difficulties. So as a counselling psychologist, you would primarily work with people who have mild depression or mild anxiety. If you were a clinical psychologist with that additional level of training, then you could cope with counselling patients who have much more severe psychological difficulties. And here we're talking about things like schizophrenia, severe depression, personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, those sorts of things. So if you want to have the skills and experience to work with clients who have those more severe difficulties, then you're probably looking at PhD level, doctorate level training. So I've got another question from Michelle, who says, can I just confirm that a student with a foundation qualification from another college may gain direct entry into year 2 as per the diagram? So yes, my understanding, Michelle, is that that is true, that with a foundation qualification, as long as it meets the grade entry requirements, that we are happy to take students with a foundation qualification from another university, and you would go directly into the Scottish equivalent of year 2, which we call year 1. We would make sure that if there were any gaps in your knowledge, that we would pick those up as we go along. So year 2 psychology is a little bit of revision for those students who might have studied psychology at foundation level, but a new kind of introduction to those students who are direct entry who haven't done psychology before. So I think I've answered everybody's questions. There's a couple of minutes left if anybody has one final burning question. If you have any more specific questions about entry requirements or scholarships or anything like that, then I'm sure our team in the marketing and recruitment office will be able to answer those specific questions. But I thank you all for your interest today, and thanks for your questions. It was a really interactive session, and I hope it's been informative as well as enjoyable for you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.